So I asked you guys to send me any Surfskate questions you have. And so in today's video, I'll do my best to answer them. All right, first question from Luke says, do you think it comes close to actual surfing? And if not, how do you think the experience can be improved? Yeah, so I actually do think Surfskates do a solid job of replicating the feeling of surfing on land. One of my first Surfskates, which was Penny Waterborne collab, I have this vivid memory of spending hours in my driveway of just doing this pumping motion, like I was pumping down the line of a wave and then connecting that with like this long drawn out cutback. And to me, it was such an addicting feeling that really felt like surfing. I do think there's a lot of room for improvement for consolidating all of the metal, like the spring, the adapter, the trucks. Like you think back to the first version of Yao, they had the adapter and then you'd put the truck on top, and then their next variation was the Yao Meraki, which basically eliminated the base plate and the hanger went directly on the adapter. I think that is how it's going to progress. It's just going to condense more and more, become lighter. And I also think for more people to hop on board, I know a lot of beginners kind of come in through surf skating, they have to be lower to the ground. I just think that the future of surf skates really needs to pull more from LDP. So like thinking about it more from a functionality standpoint, what's the degree of the back truck? What's the degree of the front truck? How can you make it lighter, lower to the ground? Yep, hopefully that answered your question. All right, now Mustafa asks, is it possible to ride the loaded Ballona with Carver C7 trucks like a Surfskate? Yeah, so straight up, yep, you can do it. I was curious, so I went out and actually put the C7 on my Ballona deck, however you pronounce it. I know I'm butchering it. But yeah, it's definitely doable. I found it best on the 16-inch wheelbase. You could go 14 3/4 of an inch, I believe, or 16. I think 16 inches makes most sense, but as far as like the deck shape goes, it's a little more flat, not as much concave as what you usually see in a Surfskate deck. I don't think that really matters that much, especially because the grip tape is a lower grit, so it's a little more coarser, and I think it'll offset not having that deep concave. And I don't think it's a deck that you're going to go and be doing crazy slides with, right? But as far as like pumping in smaller spaces, chiller cruises, like, yeah, definitely makes sense. All right, now Jahwe asks, and I'm definitely mispronouncing that name, so I'm sorry in advance. Is it easy to cruise around the city on a surf skate? What should beginners learn if they want to use a surf skate as a cruiser board? All right, solid question. I wouldn't recommend cruising around a city on a surf skate. Now, when I say surf skate, I'm envisioning like a pivoting surf skate adapter. I think it's a different story if you're using a bushing-based truck system like a Carver C5, if you have a TKP setup, if you have an RKP setup, that's going to be more stable and easier. And this is one of the reasons that I made my Surfskate versus cruiser board video, is because I think there's like a lot of confusion in it of, oh, I think I can just use my Surfskate to cover the functionality of a cruiser board, when in reality, if you're going for longer distances, you should really have a cruiser board because of that stability. If you're a beginner and you want to use a Surfskate as a cruiser, I would say go with a bushing based system so that you can kind of ease your way into it. If you just start out with a pivoting Surfskate adapter, it's going to feel super wobbly. Not saying you can't do it, but I would say your life will probably be a lot easier if you build up the fundamentals on a more stable and lower to the ground setup, and then transition into a pivoting Surfskate adapter. Now moving on, David asks, what Surfskate setups are you riding the most right now? All right, this is a fun one. So there's really two main systems that I'm using the most right now, and kind of alternating, swapping out decks, swapping out wheels. So I don't have like a definitive Surfskate setup that I use the most, but I would say as far as systems goes, I'm using the Yao Meraki, which I love it. It's so pumpable. It's perfect for smaller spaces, in my opinion. And then the Carver CX, I just feel like it's so dialed in and I can really use it on like a long wheelbase and a short wheelbase, and it just feels so solid to ride. But yeah, Yamaraki Carver CX, I've been thinking about doing a video for a while on me experimenting and building a few different Surfskate setups and sharing my experience with the wheels, with the different systems that I'm using. Yeah, I'm curious like if that's a video that you think would be cool. Just let me know in the comments and I'll probably make it regardless, honestly. So the 3 sets of wheels that I've been kind of alternating between are the Orangutan Love handles, the Surfskate Love wheels, which I believe I've been using the 65 millimeter 78As, and then the Seismic hotspots. In my opinion, those 3 wheels are just so solid. But like I said, I'll probably do a more in-depth video covering this topic somewhat soon. I don't know when, but soon. All right, now my boy Dean asks, it seems with Surfskates, they are always much taller than a conventional skateboard. How does one deal with or get adjusted to the taller heights of these Surfskates? You kind of just got to get used to it with practice. I kind of hinted at this in an earlier question, which is I think Surfskates, you're going to start to see these systems condense more and get lower to the ground. Now, not to the point where it's going to be the same as what you say conventional skateboards, but if you are coming from a cruiser, a longboard, a traditional like popsicle skateboard, it is definitely gonna feel like you're stepping on a skyscraper. That was definitely a surprising thing for me, and I know a lot of other people that have just commented that and told me. So as far as getting adjusted to them, I would probably say the best way is just dive in and just practice, or you could kind of get an in-between like a Carver CX, a Carver C5, a Yao Legacy, a Lanyards Surfskate. You kind of just got to like jump in and just practice. You'll get used to it, but I know what you're saying. Like it is very surprising coming from something that's lower to the ground and then a Surfskate. You're like, whoa, dude, this is crazy. Okay, Surfset Rider asks, could you give me some advice on pumping? After pumping, my right knee hurts. I have a regular stance. Dang, that is a bummer that your right knee hurts. What I will say is I would recommend you watch my longboard carving video, which it's like 2 or 3 videos back now. It just goes over some fundamental things that I have done that have really helped me get deeper with carving. Now I realize that's not technically pumping, but I think it could still apply to pumping as well. I have an idea of doing a pumping tutorial video in the future. What I would say is don't have your feet completely straight on the board, angle them forward. And that has personally helped me a bunch, like with pumping and carving. There are different variations of pumping, but the way I do it on my Surfskate, it really comes down to the opening and closing of your shoulders and like throwing your weight around. I don't know if this is helpful for you. I would just say, like I said before, watch that video and then stay tuned for a pumping tutorial. Hope your knee heals. That's not fun. Not Gavin Fox asks, will an old school skateboard shape with C7s feel surfy? Does the deck shape / concave contribute to its surfiness? Yeah, so old school shapes definitely will work with Surfskates. In fact, like you look at all of the Surfskate decks on the market, they're basically just mimicking 80 shapes in the fact that like they're a similar length and they're a similar width. So yeah, you could definitely use C7s on whatever old school shape you're looking at. What I would say is I'd recommend a wheelbase range from like 16 to 19 inches. If you go under that, I mean, you could, it's really just personal preference, but yeah, I would just say stay within that range and you really can't go wrong. It will feel surfy if that's what you're going for. But the other thing I also kind of realized, how I have framed Surfskates in the past was from this surfiness lens. And I think that's actually not the best way to look at it. I think it's better to look at it from like, how does each truck system pump and feel to ride? It is so subjective to be like, yeah, this system feels like surfing, this doesn't. The amount of people that I have talked to about the Swelltech Surfskate, I do not feel like that's surfing at all. But there are so many people that are like, this is identical. this feels exactly like surfing to me. My point is that the surfy feeling is very subjective, and I think the surfskate market as a whole has to get better at articulating how each system feels. It is so tough to communicate that in an actual video though. Like, it's so much better to just go to like a meetup or a local skate shop and just test different systems and see what you like, rather than angling it from a like, does this feel the most surfy? I hope this doesn't come across as like preachy, because like that's literally how I phrased it in the past. And after talking to a bunch of people about it, I think it's better to just look at each Surfskate system differently, and just not from the lens of does it feel like surfing. Personally, I don't think the deck shape and concave really contribute to the surfiness. If you really want to hone in on what's contributing to the surfiness, look at the Surfskate system, and I guess you could say the bushings and the wheels. The deck is really more of a personal preference thing. Like, do you like concave or do you find it irritating? Do you like more of an aggressive kick? Like, are you placing your back foot on the kicktail for leverage, or are you just placing it in front of the kicktail? Well, in that case, like, kicktail probably doesn't really even make sense. But yeah, old school shapes with the C7 will work well. All right, Tanuki Strider. I'm definitely butchering that. I apologize once again. Have you ever experimented with Surfskates on different types of decks, such as drop decks and longer platforms? I haven't experimented with drop decks, which I would like to, and I have seen people experiment with them in, I think, LDP like Facebook groups. So if you're curious, I would definitely recommend just lurking in those groups and seeing what they're posting there. What has felt the best to me has been using bushing-based Carver CX trucks. But again, like, I have had fun on pivoting adapters like the Yow, the Waterborne. How I think the best way to phrase it is what connects with me the best. They're Carver CX on a longer wheelbase rather than pivoting adapters. But again, you look at Steve over at Surfskate Love, he's been experimenting with pivoting adapters. I think is the Waterborne adapter on these massive boards, and yeah, he's loving it. So you can definitely do it. I just tend to gravitate more towards TKPs, RKPs, and just bushing-based systems on longer wheelbases, but you can do it. All right, my boy Turtles asks, does the penny Surfskate have the same feel as a true Surfskate? If not, what is it lacking? Yeah, so I think what you're referring to when you say true Surfskate is like that pivoting adapter that feels great, that's super pumpable. I could be wrong, so let me know in the comments. Yeah, the penny Surfskate is super fun. I still have it. I still ride it occasionally. That was one of my first setups. Just great memories on that thing. Only thing I will say is the wheelbase might be too small for some people. It might feel too snappy. But as far as like a pump from a standstill, doing carves, all that stuff, yeah, like it definitely feels like a true Surfskate. What is a true Surfskate? Like, I guess that's kind of subjective. I think it's kind of a result of the content I created in the past where I was like, this is a Surfskate, this isn't a Surfskate, when in reality, I think there are so many different variations of Surfskates. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, yeah, it is. The only thing that could be lacking would be it has a small wheelbase and it's pretty snappy. David asks, I am mainly using my Surfskate for longish couple of miles riding and pumping occasionally. What are adjustment steps to make it work better? Lower and longer definitely help, but wheel size and having a flexier deck, maybe a flexi pintail, how could that affect the ride? So I wish I knew what Surfskate system you were using or what Surfskate trucks you were using so that I could give you more specific advice here. But I think the first question that you had was about wheel size. And I would say if you look at setups that are built for longer commutes, like long distance, like LDP, those people are using 80 millimeter, 90 millimeter, 100 millimeter wheels. And I believe that the reason for that is you can get up to a higher top speed and just carry your more momentum more efficiently. So there is going to be a lot of trial and error, and I can't tell you exactly what wheel size will work for you because it does come down to the bushings you're using, your weight, the truck system you have. But I would say maybe experiment with like 70, 75 millimeter wheels with a bushing based system. Flex your deck could definitely help with like vibration dampening. And when you mix that with a larger wheel, the absorption of like a rougher environment is going to be very good. But I will say that if you start to pick up any sort of speed with a flexi deck and then you combine it with a Surfskate truck, it will be sketchy. I don't know your exact situation here, but just keep that in mind. A flexi pintail, I think, could work. I would recommend just looking at how the Comet Cruiser is built. It's a slightly flexi deck with some rocker, so it's pretty easy to push. It has narrow TKPs with double cone soft bushings, and I don't believe there's a washer on the board side bushing. I think if you have a pivoting adapter like a Yao, a Waterborne, a Smooth Star, like commuting any sort of distance on those, I don't think makes that much sense. I think, sure, it's doable, but it just isn't that functional. So that's why I don't think you're probably using that. You're probably using a bushing-based system, if I had to guess. Hopefully that helped you. I don't know. You can always just drop a follow-up question in the comments below, and I'll try to get to it. Next one is from Cassandra. What would be the things you wish you knew as a beginner with the Surfskate? I'm getting my first skate since a while, and it's the Lanyards Surfskate. Okay, first, I think that was a great decision going with the Lanyards Surfskate from a beginner perspective because it's bushing based and it's going to be more stable. Now, I'm not exactly sure what your previous board was, whether it was a cruiser, a double kick, but I think it's safe to say that that extra height will probably be surprising. So ease your way into it. I'd say speed is not your friend because these things are super maneuverable and they're higher off the ground. So getting speed wobbles is a lot easier. So just practice in flat areas, push, get on, try to carve, try to pump, get used to it like that. Then eventually you could probably move to more mellow hills, and that's where it starts to get really fun. The other thing that kind of unlocked stuff for me was taking my front foot and angling it slightly forward. So go and watch. I made a video on longboard carving somewhat recently, and those tips will also apply to Surfskates as well. Just practice in flat, mellow areas. And if you really connect with that deeper carving, flowy, pumpy feel, then you could start to explore like a pivoting Surfskate adapter. That's awesome. You're getting back into it. Nice. Billy Raz, dude, my pronunciation, just please forgive me. How to tackle steep hills on a Surfskate. I live in Norway with plenty of hills, but I quickly feel like I'm going too fast and can't turn tight enough to control speed. Surfskates on hills are sketchy, and I would just probably recommend, if you can't avoid the hills, to look into an RKP setup or a TKP setup. This is not a you thing. This is a Surfskate issue. And I think Surfskate brands need to do a better job at hammering away the fact that, like, avoid hills. They are most functional for pumping flat areas, mellow banks, mellow hills, stuff like that. Yeah, I hate to say that. Hopefully someone didn't sell you on the fact that you could use this in flat areas and pump and then bomb hills. Like, I would not recommend it. I do know people that go down hills on Surfskates, and the only way that they're able to do it is doing these like long drawn out turns. So going all the way to the left, all the way to the right. Now that can only happen if you have a wide enough hill. If you just hop on and it's just throwing you down a hill, it's going to be really hard to go left, right. But that's the only way I've seen people efficiently go down a hill. J-Ho asks, I underestimated the learning curve after converting my tugboat with the Waterborne adapter. It's really fun, but it feels like learning another thing completely. Yeah, when you compare a cruiser board to a Surfskate, very different. This is part of the reason why I did my video on Surfskates versus cruisers, because I felt like a lot of people were just going straight to Surfskates and expecting to immediately pick it up, when in reality, like, I think you did it in a solid way where you had the tugboat, you had something a little more stable, build a solid foundation, then you went to a Surfskate. But I agree, I think we do need to do a better job at telling people, like, yo, hopping on a Surfskate, completely different, And yeah, that's just a good point. Whew. Okay, I want to continue this series. I just don't know what you guys think about it. I just wanted to do this because I thought, like, if I was in the position that I was when I was buying my first surf skate, buying my first longboard, I would want some sort of resource where I could ask a very specific question and then have someone answer it fairly quickly. I'm still going to do the more higher produced videos, but I think mixing these free flowing, longer form, hyper specific Q&A videos in could be helpful. I don't know.